John Felt here, and this is the Blue Water Outlook Weekly Weather Briefing, September 29th, 2019. You know, we've had a highly amplified flow for quite some time now. It's been sort of the strongest intensity over the last week or just the last couple days and going forward for the next couple days. And right between there is where we've had all the action. And this is where we have the heaviest rain over the last week, 1 to 3 inches. And then locally, right along the Iowa-Missouri border, much heavier, 3 to 5 inches. But if you look at the rest of the nation, not much at all, very quiet. And that's what we'd expect during the fall months as we get into October. So it's sort of unusual that we're getting such an active pattern in the middle of the nation. Now the reason why, I've said this for a couple weeks now, is we have a couple air masses here. We have the warm and moist air mass, or I should say the hot and moist air mass, and then the cooler and drier air mass in this region. And we have convergence within this air mass. We have the moist air converging in here. We have a contrasting temperature gradient, and that's where all the action is. Now we look at the last week, we don't really see the coolest air pushing in here yet because this is a weekly average, but we do see over the south central U.S. and in this eastern U.S. the above normal temperatures. Now we also have some very unusual soil moisture anomalies. We have unusually wet soils over the upper Midwest, and it actually extends down into the plains, upper plains. On the other hand, we have very dry soil moisture anomalies over the south central U.S. into the southeast and mid-Atlantic, especially the southeast and mid-Atlantic with very, very dry soils. Now we look in the tropics, Lorenzo with 155 mile an hour winds, very powerful, very large hurricane. Not going to affect the U.S., but it is a very strong system. If we look at the Atlantic and the Gulf, we see pretty much no unsettled weather, so it looks smooth sailing, quiet weather, no tropical weather expected. Now tropical weather doesn't usually develop in this close-in region this time of year. In the peak, it comes from the main development region areas in this region. So I don't see anything. Usually what would happen here is if a front stalls, then we could get some development, or if we have some unsettled weather. I see neither, so it looks pretty quiet this week. Now as far as stream flow goes, look at this. Everything's sort of locked in step. The soil moisture, the dew point, the temperatures, and now the stream. River flow. Black and blue well above normal. Reds very low. And we do have some flooding going on these areas that have had repeated week to week with heavy rain. Moderate flooding coming in on the Illinois River and other tributaries in Illinois. That's feeding the Mississippi, where we're having minor flooding down towards about Cape Girardeau. Missouri is very active, minor to moderate. Red squares here are the most active, are most impacted communities with flooding. Okay, so right now, look at this amplified jet stream. Wow, that's really about as amplified as you get. Cool dip in the jet stream in the west. We're having near blizzard conditions, very heavy snow in Montana. We're having record temperatures over parts of the southeast U.S. as that ridge builds. So we go forward, what do we see? Well, we see as we go through this week, later this week, this ridge gradually breaks down, and we go to sort of a west to east flow. So that should sort of de-amplify the temperatures a bit. But look at the end of the period, the end of week 2. I don't think this is totally gone. We start to build this ridge again and dig this trough. So if you're in the west and northwest U.S., the cold is not over. Early fall, or actually early winter. And the southeast U.S., summer is not quite over, even though there could be a break for a little bit. Taking a look at temperatures, you can see that here. We start off right here. Look at these strong colors, strong anomalies. They sort of break down a bit, but they still sort of stay over this area, So it's sort of like a fire going. It comes down, tampers down a bit, then it comes back again. So these major anomalies here look to persist as we get through the next 2 weeks. Now right along those anomalies that I talked about is where the heavy rain is, 1 to 3 inches of rain, very similar to last week, localized 3 to 5 inches of rain. That's going to keep the Missouri River running pretty high, and these are the basin boundaries right here. This is the upper Mississippi on this side. Here's the Missouri over here. So a lot of this is in the Missouri, so that's going to put pressure on rivers coming through Missouri and then into the Mississippi, and likewise we're going to have some here. So pretty much the hot spots on the rivers are going to remain pretty active. We've had a lot of snow, and more snow is forecast in Montana, higher elevations of the west as well. 6 to 10 day and 8 to 14, here we go. Here are temperatures, and like I said, not a whole lot of change. And precipitation, also not a lot of change, with the middle U.S. quite active. As far as our weather hazard assessment, we have a lot of winter weather type advisories and warnings in the west. And we have flood warnings and watches right along the heaviest rain. And then as we get into October, once again, blue meaning below normal, and red being above normal, green being that rain. So I think I've covered that pretty good in this briefing. So overall, that's what's going on. Looks like parts of the country are going to be looking forward to fall because of the temperatures well into the 90s. Other parts of the country are thinking winter's arrived early, and not a whole lot of change as we go through the next couple weeks. That's this week's briefing. Have a great week.